Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and today we're going over all the new VR games dropping in the month of October. This is an absolutely stacked video with over 25 new games. And we have everything from AAA titles like Batman Arkham Shadow to bug and zombie co-op shooters with Starship Troopers and Zombie Army VR. There's new rhythm titles, strategy games, puzzle games, card games, racing games, a handful of ports, and even a remake of a classic VR title. It's an absolutely insane month, and I guarantee every single VR fan will be buying one of these games. Now, there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but let's actually briefly start off with the hardware that's dropping this month, and that's the Quest 3S at $299. All you really need to know is if you have a Quest 2, now's time to upgrade. You'll get access to the same Quest 3 ecosystem and a free copy of Batman in the process. Now, if you're somehow new to VR and watching this video, the Quest 3S is probably your better option to pick up because it's $200 cheaper and it's worth saving that money because you don't know if you're actually going to use VR long term. Now, for anyone interested in buying new hardware or games, I will mention the fact that my master affiliate link has been updated and is in the description of this video. From there, you'll find all the official Meta products that I recommend, plus third-party products, discounts, and plenty of discounted game codes. But now let's move into those new games. First up is a truly unique puzzle title, Snapstick. This is from the same developers that gave us the absolutely fantastic title Limelight, and their newest title is offering up over 500 puzzles, which also feature over 60 different mechanics. This is everything from creating Rube Goldberg style machines, all the way to utilizing shadows to solve puzzles. It's also fully playable with controllers, or you could use hand tracking, and it looks like this game will offer up a nice amount of quirkiness too. So if you enjoy puzzle games, you'll probably want to put this title on your list. Now, next up, we have a title based on the extremely popular card game, Exploding Kittens. Now, previously, I had never heard of Exploding Kittens. I was not familiar with the card game, but someone brought it to our VR gamer vacation that we recently went on. I don't know if it was Jay Bratt or Genghis. Someone brought it and said, hey, we gotta play. They also tried to describe it like it was Uno, which is completely wrong. It's very different, but it's a fantastic card game that you just sit around a table, play with a bunch of your friends. And I think this experience will be fantastic in VR, because mainly it's a solid card game. Now, I will say, I don't think the trailer does the title justice. It's quirky and you really don't know what the hell is going on. So if you're not already familiar with Exploding Kittens, you probably wouldn't give this game a second look. Between the name and quirkiness, I feel it's going to throw off a lot of people, but if you enjoy playing cards with a bunch of friends, definitely give this one a shot. But that's enough of the kidsy stuff. Let's move on to Blood and Guts with Metal Hellsinger releasing on pcvr. Now, I've probably mentioned this game 1,000 times on the channel by now, so this is going to be brief. This is basically Doom as a rhythm shooter. Cool weapons, plenty of demons to slay, and you do it all to the beat of rock music. The game previously released on Quest, it's badass, and now pcvr players can get it. Moving on, we have another interesting looking title coming to pcvr, and that is Vestiges Fallen Tribes. Now, I love to see different genres represented in VR, and this is a turn-based strategy game that utilizes cards for some epic battles. Now, I was already intrigued by this game, but then I noticed it was developed by WanaDev Studios, the same team that gave us amazing titles such as Ragnarok and Propagation VR. So now my expectations are pretty damn high, and I'm gonna have to try this one out. Now, for the platformer fans rocking a PlayStation VR 2, you're finally getting the fantastic experience, Max Mustard. This is easily the best title in the genre since Astrobot Rescue Mission and Moss Book 1 and 2. There's a ton of levels to navigate through, each with their own unique mechanics. The pacing is spot on, and I'm sure this game will look pretty damn good on the PlayStation VR 2. So this is an easy recommendation to any platforming fans out there. Now, if you're more of a fan of puzzle games, The Silent Slayer is making its way onto pcvr. This is from Shell Games, the studio that gave us the absolutely amazing I Expect You to Die series, and now they put a whole new twist on the escape room concept. Instead of having to break out, you are now breaking into coffins to slay some vampires, and any failure will result in one hell of a jump scare. I've already played through this game on the Quest, it's an absolute blast, and another easy title to recommend if you're into that genre. But sticking with the whole horror theme, we have You Can't Scare Me. This is a unique experience that you could try out in both single player or online with up to 4 people. In multiplayer modes, you and a bunch of friends could set up a series of traps and also do your best to scare the single victim who's currently on a treasure hunt. So it looks like this could be a really fun experience with some friends, and they're absolutely dropping the game in the perfect month. But let's move on from horror and into fitness. Allo Moves XR is your all-in-one wellness application. It offers up your very own virtual sanctuary where you could jump in for some yoga, Pilates, or to practice your overall mindfulness. So this is perfect if you don't enjoy public classes and just need a little help getting some exercise done at home. Now, I'm personally about as flexible as concrete, so I'm going to at least try this app out and see if it helps. Now, next up, we have a flat screen port that looks like it could be absolutely fantastic in VR. Metamorphosis originally released in 2020, and it had you taking on the role of a human who was transformed into a tiny bug. Obviously, the world is going to take on a whole new perspective, and even aspects like how you move around are completely different. Now, between the fact that this was a very well-received flat game, and scale is an element that works extremely well in VR, I think this could be excellent to experience in VR. But if A Bug's Life sounds a little bit too weird for you, let's move on to a tried and true genre, the co-op zombie shooter. Rebellion is once again back to VR, and instead of giving us more Sniper Elite, this time they moved on to their Zombie Army series. Now, I've played the flat games, and they're just some mindless fun, with a nice amount of unlockables and a decent amount of combat strategy. And I'm just expecting the same from the VR version. Now, I did already get a demo of this title at Gamescom, and while I wasn't blown away, I still think it's going to be a fun experience with a bunch of friends. But why go ahead and shoot zombies when you can just dance? Okay, so my weak segue aside, Just Dance is officially coming to VR. Just Dance, Welcome to Dance City was originally going to be a Pico exclusive, but it looks like Meta snuck in there and snatched that game. Now, this isn't exactly my style, but I know people love these rhythm titles, and I expect this will do pretty well. I also checked out the song list, which is looking solid, and there's plenty of well-known artists on there like Nicki Minaj, Ariana Grande, Gwen Stefani, Queen, you name it. They've got a whole bunch of people covered. But moving back to games that are more my style, an absolutely classic must-play VR game has been remade, and that is Arizona Sunshine. This is the original VR zombie shooter, which amazingly released all the way back in 2016. Since then, VR's come an extremely long way, and we also got plenty of DLC to that game, plus a full sequel. Well, now the remake gives you all of those graphical updates that we got from the original game, plus the DLC they added over time. So get ready to jump back into arguably one of the best co-op zombie shooters out there. Now, sticking with co-op, it was just announced that we're getting a Starship Troopers VR game. Starship Troopers Continuum is coming to both Meta Quest and the PlayStation VR 2, and the storyline takes place 25 years after the events of the original movie. Now, the trailer doesn't show us much, but we do know we get the co-op blast our way through hordes of bugs. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic on this one. A Starship Troopers game sounds absolutely ideal, but it was developed by XR Games, the same studio that gave us the Hitman 3 Reloaded flop. So I'll just keep my fingers crossed for the next few weeks. But for those looking for something more physical, the physics-based action-adventure fighting title Undead Citadel is getting a MetaQuest port this month. This is much more than your typical arena fighter, as it features a full storyline and a deeply immersive environment to explore. Now, personally, I need to re-jump into this game because when it originally released, I just wasn't a huge fan of how the combat felt, and ultimately I gave up after about 2 hours. Now, I heard there's been some improvements, so I'm looking forward to jumping back in. Now, if you're looking for something completely different, go ahead and lead an orchestra in Maestro. VR's ultimate conductor simulation is here, and you'll be using gesture-based controls to take control of your elite army of musicians and woo over the crowd. Now, this is definitely a one-of-a-kind experience, and if you want to know if it's right for you, there is still a free demo available. Now, moving on to another atypical experience, we have Does It Stack? This game is basically exactly what it sounds like. You just stack things on top of each other and see how high you can get it. Your only enemy is gravity and those pesky physics. In truth, there's a lot more to the game. There's 60 different levels, 150 unlockable objects, it's playable in both VR and AR, and you could even stack things together in local co-op. This is oddly one of those games that I look at and I'm like, come on, this is a stupid concept. Never mind, I absolutely have to try this. I think it's fun. Well, let's move back to a more typical genre, and that's racing titles with XO Cars. VR is finally getting a buggy racing experience, and it looks like we could be in store for some serious off-roading action. Now, my only concern about this game is it's coming from Joyway, a studio that either seems to always fall a little bit short or just kind of give up on a project. I'll stay cautiously optimistic on this one, and I do truly hope it succeeds because we definitely need some more racing titles, especially on the Quest. Now, next up is hands down going to be the best title released in October, and that is Batman Arkham Shadow. Camouflage, the studio that previously gave us Iron Man VR, is back again, but this time with the Dark Knight. Now, the absolute best part about this game is the fact that it is a true Arkham series experience. If you've played Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, you know what you're in store for. They've somehow managed to take that absolutely fantastic experience and bring it into a VR game. Everything from the environments, storytelling, voice acting, and best of all, the combat feel 100% suited to be in an Arkham title. From what I've tried so far, this is not only a good Batman VR game, but also a really good Arkham series game. I'm honestly expecting when the buzz about this title gets out, it's gonna sell some MetaQuest 3S's. But if for some strange reason you're not into Batman, we have Vendetta Forever, which is similar to something like Superhot. Now, besides 60 unique scenes, 20 modifiers, and 50 different weapons, this game also has a unique mechanic where you progress yourself forward by grabbing a weapon of an enemy you've dispatched. So if you just enjoy jumping into VR for some straight action, this is going to be an easy recommendation. Now, if you were previously a fan of Guitar Hero, I have good news because we're getting Band Space, which is basically VR's version of the title. This is another game I demoed back at Gamescom, and all 4 of the different instruments felt unique and fun to play, and it was another one of those rhythm titles that's super easy to jump into, but very hard to master, which again had me excited. However, my one concern was the overall song list, which didn't look very robust or populated with artists that I knew. The saving grace though was the fact that they are allowing mods, so I do expect the community will fill in the gap here. But instead of trying to be a rock star, why not try out some construction in Dig VR? This authentic, immersive experience that finds a good balance between simulation and arcadey will have you taking control of multiple different diggers, all the way from handheld to colossal in size. There's a full career mode to play through, plenty of different machines and attachments to unlock, and you could even pimp your ride in the process. So if you've ever wanted to operate some heavy machinery without a license, now's your chance. Now, rounding things out in the last week of October, we have multiple different unique experiences coming. First up is the real-time strategy dungeon building game, Underworld Overseer. I recently put out my first impressions on this game, and I thought it was pretty damn awesome. It's highly addictive, time seems to fly by when you're playing, and it reminded me a lot of the old school title Dungeon Keeper. You get to build out your very own evil lair, train up an army of different creatures, and then set up a bunch of traps for anyone dumb enough to enter your lair. So if you're looking for an RTS style game in VR, I highly recommend this one. Now, the next title we really haven't seen anything of just yet, but I still have high expectations, and that is Human Fall Flat. VR does a bunch of things really well, and 2 of those are physics and social interactions, mechanics that this title thrives on. Just like other games such as Gorilla Tag or Among Us, I expect this could be an absolute blast online, especially when you're with the right group of people. But like I said, we haven't really seen any of the game just yet, so right now this is just me speaking my hopes and dreams out loud. And last up, we're getting a port of a beloved tactical RPG, Triangle Strategy. While I never got around to playing this title on flat screen, it's basically everything I look for in a game. A deep storyline with moral choices, strategic combat, plus addictive RPG mechanics that help feed the power-hungry monster inside of me. Wait a second, did I just psychoanalyze myself? Do I only enjoy RPGs because I enjoy getting more powerful? I need to look into this. Regardless, this is already a great game, and a genre we never really see in VR, so besides Batman, this is going to be one of my top picks for October. And that right there was today's video. Now there's actually a few other titles that haven't been announced that I can't talk about just yet. We also typically get a few surprises, and release dates are always subject to change, so don't get mad if any of these games get delayed. Now if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing, and as always, I'll see you guys on next time.